Hey guys, let me know what you think by liking and commenting, and it really helps me and this channel out when you subscribe, so please click that button. Thanks a bunch. Alright everyone, today's episode is brought to you by Super Smooth Hobby Lubricants. Super Smooth Hobby Lubricants are 100% synthetic, and they come in medium oil versions, light oil, and PTFE or Teflon grease in this handy tube. These are very recent and modern formulations. The company that actually manufactures the oil and grease for Super Smooth is a very, very well-known company, and Super Smooth worked with their chemists to make sure that these would fulfill the needs of modern hobbyists. These formulas are specifically designed not to gum up, and they're designed also not to attract any kind of grease or dirt or dust. So remember Super Smooth. It's slicker than smooth. Hey everybody, if you haven't joined me for one of these before, I basically get a lot of trains and I have to test them out. And I was doing this one day and I'm like, maybe other people would like to see this. Maybe there's a train they thought about getting and they're wondering what it's like, or they're wondering what it's all about, or maybe they just want to learn what's out there, or maybe they just like looking at models. And I would watch it for that last one. I just like seeing what's out there. You know, I actually had a bunch of models that I've already passed through, and I felt really bad, for not sort of recording them and just keeping them for posterity in some sort of video format. But I've learned my ways, and now we're doing this. And what we have here is a lifelike Proto Kansas City Southern E6A, and I actually like the profile of the E6A a little bit more than all the others. I like this swoopier nose. It's more angular, and if you want to see a comparison, I've got one in my EA, my Broadway Limited EA video, so you can see them there. Now, these are some of the nicest E-unit chassis. There's no doubt about it. I've bought a lot of them and discarded the shell in one way or another, usually sold it off just so I could get to the chassis. And here's why. I mean, they're beautiful. They're really well constructed. This one has a circuit board that has a plug in it, it looks like, for 8-pin DCC. These are nice and heavy. I think the only thing that can be a problem with them is these gears can go. They have a tendency to crack. They're just too short. They're just too stubby, and they have so much pressure on them. The pressure kind of gets to them after a while and they crack. And I have a video on how to repair those, but let's put this one up on the track and see if it has, yeah, there it goes. That beautifully smooth proto drive action. It's basically a copy, I guess, of Kato's drive. Look at it, it's beautiful. That's why these things are loved worldwide. They're so smooth and so buttery. And, this was a while ago. These were at least available in the early 90s. My father, in fact, when I was digging through his stuff, he had one of these chassis with an undecorated shell. And, they've been around, like I said, and they've always done well. I don't know when they originally came out. If somebody knows, please leave that in the comment. But they've always been wonderful like this. And the shells have been good. I think these lifelikes are some of the first that really kind of broke barriers in American model trains. I mean, they just put extra effort into them, into the little details. A lot of them have the lifting lugs and everything on top for when they lift the body off of the chassis in real life. And I've had a lot of these, and I have a lot of these. And a lot of these I'll bring up in future videos as I have more money for decoders and that sort of thing. So really enjoy these, and this is a scheme I haven't seen before. I don't know a whole lot about Kansas City Southern. I don't know what the consist that went with this looks like. It obviously should be a passenger consist since this is an E6, and I just don't know. So looks pretty keen. It's interesting. It reminds me kind of hot dogs with mustard and ketchup, I guess, something like that. But It looks more elegant than a hot dog. This one has built-in Mars light. Here, look at that. Ooh, that makes me happy. These are very, very easy to convert DCC. Let's look at it from the front. Yep, it's hard not to like that a lot. Well, this one worked right off the bat. There's nothing more I have to do to it. It's running great. So there you go. I mean, hopefully we'll have a clean run here and I won't have to do any repairs. And I'll just be able to show you these locomotives. So, all right, let's move on to the next one here in a second. Okie dokie, up next is a Tyco Pennsylvania General Electric GG1, and I think this is the first one of these I've had. I've got a bunch, I think, sitting in one of these boxes, so this might be the first of many. I can't decide whether I like the GG1 or not. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but of course this Tyco one is just simply bizarre because the wheels are straight. I think these wheels are from like any 3-truck diesel that they make, like the E8 or E7. So it definitely doesn't really look much like GG1, at least not the undercarriage, but the overall shape is there. And of course, Tyco is more of a toy than it is, I guess, a true model, but it's hard not to like them anyway. Let's get that up on the track there, and well, it lights so that we know for sure. And anytime you have a lot of light like this but no movement, you've almost always got a seized motor, or at least a seized drivetrain or something. So all the power can go into the light because the motor's not chewing it up. So let's see if we can just sort of do a simple, this has probably been sitting for a good 20 years. Let's take a look at the wheels actually look pretty clean. Let's see here, looking through the camera. Yeah, the wheels look pretty clean. This is actually a pretty clean looking thing. A lot of times, you know, with these brass wheels from Tyco, they're really gunked up. Let's go ahead and unscrew this here real quick and let's take a look inside. Okay, that was a little sticky. These are a little sticky, so let's get these out of here. And well, it's not bad actually. It's not bad. There's some lubricant on here. Let's see if everything's kind of binding. That's rolling pretty free. Let's see if, that's rolling pretty free. So it actually may have just been the wheels that were kind of sticky in there, and maybe some of this grease or lubricant or whatever it is sort of dried, or maybe it has a little bit of contact fusion with the cast truck here. Let's go ahead and just put some super smooth on the inside of the, I guess this is the bearing, and that way if we do have something sticky in there, hopefully this will help the wheels run a little bit better. Let's get that in there, and I think while we're in here, let's put a little bit of light oil. That way it'll penetrate into the main shaft bearing here. There we go. Let's just a little dab, and that way, particularly up, you know, on these surfaces that rub, this will give us a little nice thin film for it to ride on. So let's go ahead and put these back on there. Yep. Click in place, get the gears, and let's reattach this plate. Okay, now that the keeper's back on, let's put it back on the track and see what we get. Let's Let's see if that light lights up. Yeah, it did. It lit up quite a bit, but let's see if I can just sort of bring this out of its slumber by gently pushing it back and forth. Oh, it's directional. Light's directional. Oh, that's useful. Let's give me a second here and let's see if we can bring this thing Lazarus style back from the dead. Okay, I know that the video is giving you the impression that I'm really like bearing down on this thing, but actually all I'm doing is just sort of barely adding a little bit of direction to it, and the motor wants to spin. So I'm really, even though it seems like I'm really like cranking down on this thing, I'm really not. I'm just barely kind of dragging. It seems to work better in the direction that's going from right to left than left to right. In fact, it's kind of sticky left to right, whereas right to left, like I said, all I have to sort of do is just drag it a little bit and it'll overcome this stiction. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on there. You know, the next step, if I can't get this to free up a little bit, is that I'm going to have to break this motor down, and I'm not going to do that on this video because that'll take a while. I'll put it in a separate self-contained video. I mean, you can tell that this thing wants to run. It really, really wants to run. It just, for whatever reason, can't run. And it's getting good electrical connectivity. Not too worried about that. The wheels seem pretty clean. Gosh, you know, I don't want to, like I said, I'm trying to keep these videos to 20 minutes or under. Whoops. That certainly won't help. So I'm going to have to fix that and try to run it again. So I have to go in the other room and resolder that. And again, if that doesn't take care of it, then I'm going to have to break this motor down and see if I could figure out what's causing it to bind. And again, it's not bad. It really, really wants to run, I promise. But I just can't quite get it to right now. This is one of those infuriating things where I think it should work. Everything points to it working, but then again, it is Tyco with this horrible power drive. So just not going to be able to make it happen for you in this video. Sorry about that, but maybe the follow-up video where I actually get this to work will help somebody. You know, this is actually kind of a handsome thing, but let's go ahead and move on to the next one. It's just, I reached into the box and pulled out another one, and we've got another Tyco, which is, again, a Tyco that has the box, but doesn't have any of the packing material. What is it? Do people like to eat this packing material? I don't know. Is it tasty? Why is there rarely packing material? Okay, well, this plopped out this ALCO Century 430. Let's just sort of pop that back in there, and goodness, you know, if it's a Tyco with this cruddy power drive, what are the chances of it actually working? I don't know, but we will soon find out. Oh, goodness, get back in there. What are you doing? Get in there. And that's the one thing about these Tycos, right, is the shells are like made out of depleted uranium or something like that. They're thick and chunky, and they're obviously designed so that kids can throw these things around after they get them and unpackage them from under the Christmas tree. So, get in there. Okay, there's obviously a trick, and I'm not a Tyco expert. I've worked on some of these. I've had a tendency to avoid them in the past because they're so obnoxious. But you know what's nice about this rocket line? It actually looks good, but on top of that, it has full railings. And that's something you don't necessarily see in these Tycos a whole lot, is full sets of railings. It looks good. I like it. Okay. So let's, yeah, it's, you know what? They're actually pretty good looking. I'll give them that. Obviously, you know, there's a lot of all molded in details except for a couple things like the horns. But with full railings, you know, I could actually get behind this. Certainly would not want to try to DCC one of these motors. I haven't actually put on a meter, but I'm sure they chew up a lot of amperage. Okay, let's see. Well, like I said, I guess I'm done admiring it. Let's go ahead and plop it down on the track and just pray that it runs. Please let me have a Tyco that just runs straight out of the box one of these times. Of course, it's probably, given how old some of these things are, that's probably not going to be the case, but let's see what we get. Well, just like the GG1, it is trying. It's trying. And of course, I haven't taken off the base plate and lubricated it. It's trying. It really is. It's like you give it these little nudges, and it's like, I think I can. Wow, look at that. Okay, let's take this apart. This will be pretty much this tried and true procedure from the last time. And I noticed some of these gears were just a little sticky against the sides of this inner truck casting. So let's go ahead and try this again. Is it working? It looks like it's doing it. It looks like it's doing it. It's working. Kind of. It's kind of working. Okay. Well, it's not a speed demon. It's not a Formula One race train, but it's doing it. Yeah, it's actually not doing it too badly either. Okay. Okay, well, there you, well, actually it's just electrical connectivity issue, so, yeah. Okay. Okay, well, there you go. What else more is there to say? I actually finally got a Tyco that works a little bit. It's hard to beat that. Okay, well, let you get a little look at it here, then we'll go on to the next one. Okay, next we have an AGM, I think. It was was this Green Bay and Western Railroad? Green Bay, yeah, 309. What is ALCO RS-11, something like that, right? This shell's kind of loose, but let's take a look. Looks like the wheels aren't too bad off. Nah, they're not too bad off. So we should be able to do something with that, hopefully. Let's pull this off and see what's going on under here. So it has typical Rivarossi / AGM vertical motor. Where is it? Okay, well, it definitely wouldn't have worked since the wires are disconnected. Not quite sure what's going on there. So I guess I'm glad I took the shell off first since it was already kind of loose before plopping it down there and looking like a dork when it wouldn't move at all. So went ahead and soldered those back. Yeah, no problem. So looks like one of the traction tires is missing. And it looks like those could use a little bit of a cleaning. But otherwise, this looks like a pretty decent model. So let me clean these up real quick. Okay, let's plop it on the trackety and see what we get out of it. Get on there. Okay, so you hear that clicking noise? 90% of the time on most other models, if you hear that kind of click, it usually means that you have a cracked gear. But on these AGM / Mohanos, what you usually actually have is a gear that's been kind of knocked out of place or something like that. And it's because of that, it's not quite engaging properly. That's just been my experience with these. I'd love to know if you've had your own. I don't work on a super ton of these, although it seems like I'm starting to lately. But yeah, see, here's this gear set in here, and usually what happens is one of these just becomes slightly dislodged or something like that. So while I'm in here, see, here it is. And I don't think I've ever seen one of these cracked, although I could be wrong. And probably if you're going to see something like that, probably one of the teeth will be missing. But you know, this particular drive has been pretty reliable. I haven't had a whole lot of problems with these. So here you go. This is one of the axle. The axle gear looks like. It's a little bit of a complicated set. It has this vertical worm. And then, you know, it's basically got two flanking gears. And one of these two is usually the one that gets jostled out of place. What happens is usually somebody lubricates these and then doesn't put that plate, you know, the keeper plate back on particularly tightly, or it's slightly catawampus or something, and one of these will kind of pop up because of that. And the problem is you sort of can't tell once you got that keeper plate off, these start to move and wiggle around all over the place. But you can just inspect them like I'm doing here. And like I said, I've rarely ever, in fact, I've never seen one of these cracked. They seem to be pretty reliable. And again, I'm not an expert on these. I haven't taken apart a ton of them, but overall, they seem to be pretty problematic. So as long as that keeper plate is back on there, as snug down as it'll go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these all back in and make sure they're set pretty good. And there are no real bearings here. Basically, they're just slots cut out. And then I will tighten this down pretty well, and we'll see if that clicking noise has gone away. Hopefully it has, because I'm running over 20 minutes, and I just need this to work. Ugh, okay, well, there's the clicking again. Ugmo. There's always the chance, I suppose, that something's caught in there. You know, let's let it run for a minute and see if it'll clear or if these gears will seat on their own. And of course, what I'm doing is I'm lifting up slightly on the back side so that it's not bearing down on track. And it looks like, in fact, whatever was in there or whatever was going on, I think we've got it now. Okay, I guess we don't got it. Blarg, let me take this apart again. And I will really speed through this because you don't need to watch all this come apart again. And what I'll do is I will go ahead and actually put lubricant on everything I can think of, the gears, the bearings, and I will make sure that this thing is actually really on there well this time. And again, that's almost always the problem. Use some super smooth light, and that'll penetrate this bearing. And let's put it back on here and see if that clicking is gone. Please be gone. Okay, it is missing one traction tire, and there is a little bit of weight. And let's, wait a minute, that's Let's get this off of here. It's harder to see than you might think. So let's make sure, yeah, so you can see the lead in there, and that helps weigh this down also. It's in general too light as it is, but oh well. These, by the way, are relatively easy to DCC, and they take a DCC decoder pretty well. I actually have a video on how to work these vertical motors into DCC. I've got quite a few of them running, and actually they're not that bad. Okay, like a lot of these, it's not exactly the quietest thing, but it is now a working thing. So that came out pretty well, actually. Ooh, but I went over a little bit. I'm trying to like not hold you very long, and of course a lot of you probably just want to skip through and see the parts that you're interested in. You know, I want to hear about your experiences. You have these models yourself, if you've worked with them, any issues that you've noticed. At least all of these I got running, except for the GG1. It only kind of runs, and I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do about that in the end, but here's this one. You know, I actually like the ALCO series of locomotives. I'm actually kind of sad that they didn't make it, and I think they would be an interesting third in, you know, sort of American road. I guess the one that really I wanted to see stay around, ALCO, True, and Fairbanks Morse. They always seem to have some neat looking designs, so it's kind of sad they didn't, but either way, we have their models now to run, and at least we can kind of look to the past. And okay, well, that's it for today. I went way over, sorry about that. And like I said, 20 minutes is my goal, but we're over that, so I'm past it now. I'll do better in the future. So like usual, I appreciate any comments you have on these. I'd love to hear about your experiences. And it really helps me out if you like, and it helps me out even more if you subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, but it helps me a bunch. And please, you know, go to the links below if you're interested in purchasing any of the products from my sponsors. So take care, appreciate it, happy model railroading, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.